Morning. Thanks everybody for joining. Just maybe give it a couple of minutes to see if anybody else is joining before we go ahead and get started. Morning, everyone. Maybe we'll just give one more minute and we'll go ahead and get started. Maybe while we're waiting in the chat, feel free to ask any questions there. If I see them, I'll try to touch on them if it's relevant to the current conversation. If not, we do have a FAQ question at the end and open Q&A. So whatever works best for you, whether you want to hold off until the end of the webinar or send them through the group chat and we'll get to them later. Feel free to go there. And also, if you have any sort of thoughts or sort of goals of what you'd like to learn today, feel free to put that in the chat as well. All right, so we can go ahead and get started. So thanks everyone for joining today's session on building culture in multi-location companies, what we're calling the complete playbook. If you don't know who I am, my name is Joseph Hammett. I'm the head of sales at HR Cloud, and I'm excited to walk you through today's discussion, where we'll address some of the key challenges in building a unified culture across multiple locations. By the end of this webinar, you'll have actionable insights and proven strategies that you can apply to your organization. All right, so here's today's agenda. First, we're going to go over what we call the culture problem. We'll begin by understanding the common culture challenges that arise in multi-location organizations. Next, we'll talk about the basic framework, where we'll go over 3 core strategies for aligning culture across locations. And then after that, I'll give a live demo of our product Workmates, which is our solution to this culture problem that we're going to outline with a live demo of some of its core features that are pertinent to this discussion. Next, we'll talk about a case study from a recent large organization of ours that successfully implemented these exact strategies within our system. And then lastly, we'll talk about why culture is a priority for C-suite leadership and should be a top priority for any organization. And then at the end, as I'd mentioned, we'll answer any questions. Feel free to send them through the group chat as we progress through our discussion. Okay, so the culture problem. Building a cohesive culture across multiple locations is no small feat. Let's start by diving into some of the most common problems that arise in these multi-location companies. The first issue is different leadership styles. So each location often develops its own management approach, which creates inconsistency in employee experience across the organization. Some might have very centralized management. Some might have more of a, democratic leadership organization. Next, we have disconnected communications. So multiple platforms and tools that might be being used by locations, so there might not be a consistent location or a consistent tool that's being used, creates silos, meaning information doesn't easily flow across teams, intra-team, intra-location. This causes confusion, disengagement, and more of a silo feeling from organizations, especially if you have a large population of remote employees. The third challenge is inconsistent recognition. So without a consistent recognition program, employees in some locations might get acknowledged while others are left out. There's not a centralized system, follow-up, and sort of a central core value system. This leads to maybe perceptions of unfairness. Some people might not like their manager because they feel they're not being accurately and adequately recognized. And finally, there's the tension between local versus centralized authority. It's tough to balance local autonomy with a central alignment. Some locations might feel disconnected from corporate priorities, while others feel like there's too much flexibility. And these are some of the barriers we'll discuss today. So regional differences is sort of the first core issue that might be challenged with multi-location. So employees at remote offices often feel disconnected from the main corporate culture. They may lack a sense of belonging or feel excluded from decision-making processes, especially if these are not just regionally dispersed locations, but potentially people that are working from home, which is very relevant to today's conversations. There might be large physical distances, so remote locations miss out on the spontaneous interactions that we are kind of accustomed to in more of in cultural moments when there's a large headquarter, large offices and campuses. This makes it harder to maintain a unified culture when people aren't physically next to one another. There's also leadership variations. So different managers bring their own leadership styles, which is valuable locally, but can create confusion about company values and expectations. And lastly, communication conflicts. So communication preferences may vary across locations. Some sites may have too much information, while others might not have enough. There might be language and cultural barriers that need to be included and considered as well. Overall, this sort of amalgamation causes confusion about what is truly important. So these challenges show why a unified culture is so hard to achieve in today's more dispersed workforce culture. Now let's explore how we can overcome these hurdles. So the first way we can do this is by creating tailored communication channels. So each communication channel, each location should have their dedicated channels that address local needs. But these local needs are still aligned with the company's core values and strategic priorities. These would include things like local news feeds, regional team channels, and consistent messaging frameworks that help maintain alignment while respecting the uniqueness of each site. The second thing that we can do is ensure that recognition is traveling across all locations. So recognition should be consistent across all sites. Celebrating achievements company-wide that might begin at the local community level, but then shared out to the entire organization. This ensures that employees feel valued, regardless of their location. Peer-to-peer recognition can transcend geographical boundaries and connect teams. And not just peer-to-peer, but also management to peer, celebrating wins at the local and the global level. And the last strategy we can implement is ensuring that central announcements have local autonomy. While it's important to distribute company-wide announcements from leadership, managers should also have the ability and flexibility to adapt these messages for their teams. This balance allows for consistent messaging with local relevance, ensuring employees feel both connected to the organization and empowered in their local context. These strategies form the foundation for building a cohesive culture across multi-locations, across vast geographical areas. So Workmates helps you align, Workmates was one of our products, helps you align culture across all your locations by bringing communication, recognition, and engagement together in one place. So centralizing all of these various things we discussed. You can create location-specific channels for each office or region, so employees can share updates that matter to their team without getting lost in irrelevant conversations. And then through cross-location recognition, employees can appreciate peers in any branch, any store, any location, instantly visible across the entire company feed. This helps every team feel part of one shared culture, no matter where they are. And when it comes to company updates, HR and leadership can send centralized announcements and target or tailor content for specific locations or groups. That means everyone receives the right message relevant, consistent, and on time. So this balance of global communication and local connection is what builds culture consistency at scale in rapid growth organizations across various regional areas. So let's dive in quick into a live demonstration, and I can show you how Workmates touches on these exact points that we just talked about. First, I'll show you how it's easy to create location-specific channels and customize them to meet your local needs, while ensuring alignment with larger company visions. Next, we'll highlight how recognition can be shared across locations instantly, creating a truly connected workforce. And then lastly, I'll show how Workmates enables centralized announcements that local managers can personalize, ensuring they resonate with their specific teams. Awesome, so let's hop into this. So this is our Workmates platform. This is available on both a desktop, laptop, as well as through a mobile app and through any other, smart enabled phone or device. And this is really a feed-based communication hub. So we have the company feed that we'll get in here. This is sort of your top-down communication where all the types of communications that we talked about can be dispersed out to the entire organization. But even at this corporate level, this global level, when I make a post, I can make sure that it's maybe tailored to only a certain location, department, division, and other subunit of your organization. So I want it to be on the company feed, but only to these specific people. So I can really target where this information is going. And then specific to our type of communication we talked about, which is that location-specific communication, we have what we call channels. This is similar to something that we might be familiar with as Facebook groups. So we just call them channels here. So it's very easy to create a channel. You can enable who can create a channel very easily in the system with your permissions. So allowing managers to, location managers, department managers, et cetera, to make their own channels. And this is where you create a channel. So what's the purpose? It might be something based off of productivity for a certain location, but it also might be things that are, a forum to discuss things that are going on, general interest things that might be specific to a location or the entire organization. And then this is the big part. You're going to determine how somebody becomes a member of this channel. So if it's a closed channel, this means I'm going to set up strict rules down here. We call them parameters that say, okay, this is a channel just for people at this location. Maybe it's a little more specific. It's people at this location and this department. So only people that meet these criteria, I picked the locations and department names here, are going to become a member of this team. Now I can still create this sort of auto enrollment, but I can also make a channel open. This means that other people that don't meet this criteria, or if I didn't even have any criteria, I can do that as well, can join this channel. So if it's something that might be of interest to them, maybe they want to get together and be part of the group that puts together, company events and things like that, they can join that channel if it's an open channel. And then when we go into these channels, so I'll go into a channel that I'm already a group of, let's say this manufacturing channel, for that division of this organization, notice I can communicate, share ideas, hear updates of what's going on, send announcements out to everybody, but it's really just local to that organization. Now, part of this can also be recognition. So what our customers develop is their recognition program through what we call Kudos. So this allows me to recognize one or multiple of my coworkers by using what's called badges. So what our customers will generally do is bring their recognition program into the system, and it might be their core values or specific awards that they've already created. And we can go ahead and allow people to be recognized for this. You can create a nice branded message, or it can be open text where they can write something else. So we'll just make it easy here. Great job. And I can go ahead and post it. You can also set up reward systems where they're collecting points that could be cashed out for rewards and other gift cards and things like that as well. But just for sake of time, we'll go ahead and post this. Notice it shows up here. So now everybody at this channel, at this location, is being recognized. But this might be something that I want to share with the entire organization. So if I have the permissions to do this, I can go ahead and share this post. And now I don't want it just for there. I want the entire organization to know about this particular post. So I can cross-post it to the company feed. And now, not only is our Antonio and Alicia being recognized here with their local teams, but now they're also being recognized at the company level. So we'll see here, both of them, that recognition has been shared with the entire organization. There's a leaderboard that we can see here, both at the company level as well as the channel level. And you can have other types of communication here as well. So you can do surveys, you can announce new hires, connect team people, announce promotions, but really catered to the type of communication we talked about, you also can send announcements. So these announcements aren't just a generic post. This could be a newsletter you create. This could be for urgent communication. It really allows more eyes and more urgency and weight to this particular post. So you create the post, you can create a newsletter as well with HTML editors, but you can send this as a text message. So if it's really something urgent that needs to get out to the specified employees or the entire organization, I can do that. I can also ensure sign off. And this is something your location managers can do as well for their location. Ensure that people have seen this, have acknowledged, signed these posts. And then lastly, these things are very easy to find. So instead of trying to find these important updates through a Teams channel, a Slack channel, an email, a text message, all of the above that we see oftentimes, all of this important information is saved in the resources. So if I was like, what was that update that was sent last week about benefits? I know it was important. I just can search it, pull it up very easy. I know where all this centralized and important communication is. And from a manager or supervisor level, I can also ensure that these ones that need to sign off have been seen. I can go in and see who has seen, acknowledged, signed this particular important update and who hasn't. So you have that visibility, not just at the local level, but the company level, global level as well. All right, so this is how Workmates touches on this. It allows you to create both a global community as well as local communities, and they're not in separate places. It's all in one place. It's interconnected. It allows these locations to know this is everyone across the organization, no matter where they are, know exactly where information is, where that information is being sent, and they can also send it themselves. So now I want to talk about a recent large customer of ours. This is a large department store in Europe that's using our system specifically to touch on these exact issues that we talked about. Obviously, as a store, a large chain, they have lots of locations. All their employees are in different places. They might be culturally different with different languages and different unique needs. So they're using our system to tackle those exact issues. So they faced a familiar challenge. So communication across different stores was fragmented. Recognition felt inconsistent. There wasn't a clear connection between what was going on at the store level and at the corporate level. And HR had no clear visibility into engagement or feedback trends. So with Workmates, we helped them bring all this together in one connected platform. We created dedicated communication channels, automated employee surveys at every stage, so onboarding, engagement, and exit, and added analytics so HR and leadership could understand results by department and over time and get that information in real time, assess, redo the surveys, feedback mechanisms, and everything. So this combination of recognition, surveys, and data-driven insight has given the Public Olympia Group a unified approach to building a stronger, more connected culture across all their locations. They've seen a huge increase in user adoption. Their kudos, which is their recognition, has gone through the roof, and they're also starting to see very positive trends. They're using NPS surveys in our system for their NPS results as well. So real life things happening, driving engagement through Workmates. So last thing I want to touch on is why culture is really a C-suite and leadership priority. Not just revenue generation and operations and these things. So culture isn't just a nice to have, it's a strategic imperative. Forward-thinking leaders understand that a unified culture directly impacts business outcomes. So this includes higher employee satisfaction. So when employees feel connected to a consistent culture, job satisfaction and loyalty increases. There's higher performance. So unified culture improves productivity, collaboration, and overall team performance. And this ultimately reduces turnover. So a strong, consistent culture leads to higher retention rates, saving costs associated with turnover. So CEOs and HR leaders recognize that culture is a competitive advantage in the workforce that drives long-term business successes. So thank you. That's the main things I want to talk to you about today. I didn't see any questions come through the chat, but I would now like, if you want to raise your hand, I can unmute you. And if you have any questions, more than happy to go over. We do have some time. Looks like here, Tamalika is asking, so you mentioned balancing local autonomy with centralized communications. So how does HR Cloud Workmates specifically make that easier in practice? So the idea here is that Workmates becomes the main line of communication. So this is a place that isn't just top-down communication, there's a direct feedback loop. So what this allows for is communication not just being something that I'm a recipient of, but I'm an active participant and actually create content creator within the system. So this leads to one, autonomy. I have the ability to make my own posts, share my own ideas, connect with my employees, my coworkers, my peers at my location, as well as at a more global level, if you wish. This allows the communication to go in two directions. So you have both top-down communication coming from the corporation, which is really a common form of communication, but you also have a bottom-up communication loop that allows those people to be heard, to have autonomy, and all that information is in one place. And another question here, Steve is asking, can Workmates integrate with other systems like payroll, HRIS platforms to keep employee database and engagement connected? Yes, absolutely. So we encourage any and all of our customers, since this is never, your complete HR solution, to have this connected with their system of record. So that might be payroll systems. We have integrations with most global payroll systems, and we can easily integrate with others. ADP, UKG, Paylocity, SAP, QuickBooks for small businesses, all of those, and also your HR tool. Some customers also have this connected directly into their database. So how maybe it's like their single sign-on provider or their identity creator, that's where it's connected. So we always have an active roster, removing, adding employees, updating channels, membership based off of location, everything from that central database. Thank you. Another question is, how can smaller organizations with only a few locations start building a unified culture without overcomplicating things? So really, our solution is built for growth, and you can start out small. So a small business might just have, let's say 20 people at one location, or maybe they just have, a couple locations with a handful of employees. They really only need to create 1, 2, 3 channels within the system. So you have your company channel where most of the main stuff is going on, and then you have your location channels. So it's something that can be set up in a matter of minutes. It's also something that's easily used, right? So this is similar to social media platforms that people use in their own personal life. It becomes sort of a viral app within your organization with high usage. So it's not, and we also help from the implementation side to make sure that it happens that way. And then another question from Steve. For companies with both desk and deskless workers, how does Workmates ensure inclusivity and consistent engagement across all types of workers? Great question. So, when we think tech, we often think that this is something that is for, let's say, more of a white collar business, tech companies with a lot, high number of young employees, which that certainly is the case. That tech companies and those high technology companies embrace this type of technology, but that's not actually the most common user within our system. The most common user we have is generally, towards the older end of the workforce, obviously young people as well, and oftentimes in what quote unquote blue collar industries, construction, manufacturing, food and beverage, retail, frontline workers, that sort of term. That's really the most common user within our system. So these people aren't generally tech savvy. They know how to use a mobile device, and that's where we can communicate with them. So this is an app that's built for easy use, easy adoption, and also make sure that they feel inclusive. And also the system can be translated into any language. So if you're a global organization or you have, a high number of people that aren't, let's say English speaking, like Spanish speaking here in the United States, that's easily done. They can actually go in and you're posting everything from, let's say, a corporate level in English. They can go into their settings and have everything auto-translated into their preferred language, Spanish as an example. And then another question, in multi-location setups, recognition often feels inconsistent. Yeah, absolutely. That's what we've been discussing today. So how do you make sure every employee feels equally valued, especially in remote or retail environments? It's a couple ways this can be done in Workmates. First, as I've mentioned in a previous question, Workmates is not just a one channel or one direction communication tool. It allows for employees to have their voice heard, so they can make posts, they can add comments, they can react to that, share that, to send messages out to their coworkers. So if something is important to them, managers can relay information through the system out to their different your direct reports, etc. And also, so these people are able to actually have their voice heard. They can literally communicate directly in the system. They're not just recipients of stale information. The second thing is surveys. So within the system, you can create your own custom surveys or use templates of surveys that are high impact surveys where you're getting that feedback at regular intervals. These surveys can be for any purpose. You can create your own custom questions, do NPS surveys, etc. To make sure that what you're doing has a real effect. So you can see that through the surveys directly in the tool. And the nice thing with Workmates is this is one system doing both. So oftentimes you might have a communication tool, you might have a survey tool, but they're not connected. Here they are. Any other questions? All right, well, just to wrap up again, so thanks everyone for joining today. I hope you have now a better and more clear understanding of the challenges of multi-location companies and what they face when it comes to culture and the strategies that you can implement and overcome them. So if you're ready to transform your culture across locations, I encourage you to schedule a personalized demo Workmates. We can show you how it can help. You can do this on our website, hrcloud.com. And more than happy to help you out in any way. If you have any questions, I do believe you also have my email address. Feel free to shoot over any additional questions via email, and I'm more than happy to help you all out. So it was a pleasure meeting with you all today, and everybody have a great day. Bye-bye.